Today I'd like to talk a little bit about humility. Recently I watched a teaching on the Four Noble Truths by His Holiness the Dalai Lama that he gave in Long Beach, California in 2009. We watched this during the New Name. And I think probably because we had been sitting quietly and purifying, prostrating, not eating, not talking, I think this teaching's been in pretty deeply for some people. His Holiness has such an extraordinary ability to weave together very complex concepts and make them so clear, so succinct. In his first talk, he was talking a lot about dependent arising, or dependent origination. Pratitya samutpada in Sanskrit. And he was talking about this as the heart of the Buddha's teachings. So early in the talk, His Holiness quoted the homage from Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise on the Middle Way. He said, "I pay homage to the perfect, complete Buddha, the best of teachers, who taught that dependent arisings are neither ceasing nor produced, neither annihilated nor permanent, neither coming nor going, neither different nor the same, and who taught the peace that is the complete pacification of elaborations." So in this verse, Nagarjuna is referring to the two levels of the nature of reality. One is our everyday level of experience, without doing any analysis, just accepting things on a conventional level. Where it's fine to talk about people or things coming and going, arising and ceasing, without any analysis. No problem. However, that's only on a relative level. If we do any analysis at all into the actual nature of things, things such as coming and going, arising and ceasing, and so on, are not found, because they're not part of the ultimate nature of reality. Such characteristics are not ultimately or inherent. They don't ultimately or inherently exist, precisely because they are dependent. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? So straightforward. And as we saw in our analysis with Jeffrey, it's quite interesting to look for where is the coming, where is the going, what part of the foot has come and gone. So it's a very interesting analysis. The Buddha taught the truth of dependent arising, but this is part of our daily practice to analyze and come up with understanding our own experience for ourselves. Can we find anything in our world that does not exist dependently? Have we looked? It's worth spending some time actually doing this investigation. In his homage, Nagarjuna has extracted the heart of the Buddha's teachings by highlighting dependent origination. And actually, the Buddha introduced this concept of dependent origination in his first teaching on the Four Noble Truths. So, for example, with the truth of suffering, origin, cessation, and path, the Buddha identified these two sets of cause and effect. So the first set, the truth of dukkha, of suffering, and the truth of origin. And these pertain to the causes and effects of suffering and the unsatisfactory nature of our samsara, our life. The second set is the truth of cessation and the truth of the path that deal with the causes and effects that lead to attaining the freedom that we're seeking. So this causal dependence is just one level of dependent origination, but I think it could keep us busy for a long time, just investigating that, just using that as a way to break out of some of the grasping and the reifying that we do all day long. So learning about the different levels of dependent arising is not just intellectual information like knowing how many people live in Spokane or what the elevation is of Newport, Washington. But rather, His Holiness was expressing in such a fresh way that this is vital for all of us to understand. Precisely because our own experience of happiness and suffering, as well as the internal and external conditions for happiness and suffering, all of these are dependent upon their own compatible causes and conditions. And so that's the bulk of our practice, isn't it? It's identifying what are the causes of happiness, what are the causes of suffering, and acting appropriately, looking to see what to abandon, what to adopt. And he was very clear, several times in the teaching, he was very clear to say, obviously we still have some ignorance about this, because we're still creating causes for suffering. It's like, oh yeah, it's a good reminder. If we don't spend some time trying to understand this thoroughly, then we'll remain naive or ignorant about our own experiences that come about. We'll tend to blame ourselves for our suffering, we'll tend to blame others. Or if we achieve something, we might think, I achieved this all on my own, by myself, without any help of anybody else. But nothing could be farther from the truth, because in reality, every process of cause and effect has multiple contributing factors, both direct and indirect. You know, this is the dynamic play of infinite elements that come together in every moment. And yet, you know, we're quite complacent about, no, this is a computer. It has always existed, it will always exist. Or the electricity, today the electricity's gone out. We might be surprised by that, but why be surprised? So many causes and conditions come together to give us electricity every day. So the Buddha taught that through understanding the law of dependent origination, we can eventually fully understand the cause and effect process that gives rise to our experiences of happiness and suffering. Eventually. I think it'll take a while. But for now, for me, reflecting on that, this understanding brings a kind of humility that I think is healthy. Because I see that many of my righteous thoughts or arrogant thoughts are actually about trying to find security in a constantly changing, insecure world. Sounds like a setup for disappointment, doesn't it? When I think of the interdependence of even something simple like having an orange, like Venerable Samten talked about in the last sharing the Dharma day, or receiving the kindness of a friend, or a small aha moment when you pick up a Dharma book and something you've wondered about is finally revealed to you. Now I'm beginning to wonder, what are all the causes and conditions that have led up to any given moment of experience? And can we ever know something in a definitive way, as ordinary beings? Can we ever know all the causes and conditions? This is challenging for a mind that likes to know. Questions like, what are some of the causes and conditions that have brought this about, allows a kind of curiosity and awe and expansion to arise in the mind, which helps to counter the strong innate tendency to reify and solidify things into this is this way, this is that way, this person is always this way. Whatever we're hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, or projecting onto any person, thing, situation, or thought that we happen to be engaging with, can we just step back for a moment and think, what are all the causes and conditions that brought this about? Nurturing greater awareness of the causal dependence of everything that we encounter, especially happiness and suffering that we experience, encourages us to ask questions like, am I giving more weight to the appearance of this object than its actual dependent nature can bear? I love how Venerable Geshe Dado talked about how impermanent things being at the mercy of their causes and conditions. Do you remember that? Is this constantly changing person, object, situation, idea a reliable object for me to take refuge in? What are the true causes of my happiness and suffering? Am I willing to take 100% responsibility for being the person I want to be, regardless of the outer circumstances I find myself engaging in? Am I willing to question my own tendency towards rightness? What would be the benefit of embracing a wider diversity of ideas and experiences? And what is my experience? Does it bring greater ease and acceptance to see things as dependent arising? Actually, I'm finding it does create more space in the mind. So it takes a long time to create new habits like this, but I'm finding that giving even a little bit of thought to dependent arising, the dependent nature of things, allows for that more playful curiosity, openness and awe and interest in my mind and interactions. So what about you?